So a couple of things for this Oxyfuel cutting that you're going to need. First thing we have is our punch, and then our hammer that goes along with that. I'm assuming everybody's probably used a punch at one point. The next thing you guys are going to need is your compass to be able to draw your circle and your radius. And then you also need a piece of soapstone, tape measure, and then there's actually one more thing, not required but helpful, which is your combination square. So now there is so many different ways that you guys can actually use these tools to create this. I'm only going to show you, just maybe the easiest way. But remember, anytime you're doing a cutting test, say if you have this nice straight edge here, use that to your advantage, but we're not going to make two different, just two cuts. It's a cutting test. We want to make sure that we're cutting on all four sides. So the first thing you want to do, find yourself a starting point. Now, for this piece of material, it might be nice just to use this combination square. And I'm actually just going to take this combination square, and just to save some material, I'm going to set this to, we'll say 1/4 of an inch, because all I need to do is just get rid of, I don't want to use this blank space here. So I just want to take this, set it to about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to set it flat right up against our material. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to take my soapstone and I'm going to draw a new line. Remember, I want to cut all four sides, and if I don't have a line to follow here, it's just going to be the sheared edge or whatever edge is already there. So we're just going to take this, make sure that your soapstone, mine is rounded soapstone. You guys would use probably rectangular unless you have one of these. Make sure it has a point to it. The thinner the line, the more accurate your cut is going to be. That's something that you guys are graded on, which is cut accuracy. So if you have this real wide piece of soapstone and your line is real wide, it's going to affect your cut, because that could mean 1/4 of an inch difference. Okay, so we're just going to take this and we're going to hold this and we're going to slide it right down while holding our piece of soapstone. Okay. Now I know that I need at least 6 inches, so I'm just going to go a little bit farther, and I hope you guys can see this. If not, it might be, you guys will see the finished product for sure. So we drew ourselves a nice little line. Now I know that this piece is square, so I'm going to be able to use this to my advantage. All right, there's numbers on here, but I could also use my tape measure. So I know that I used 1/4 of an inch here, so whatever line I use here, I'm just going to add 1/4 of an inch to our length. Okay, and this will also allow me to use the straight edge. Now if this line, if the edge of this metal wasn't actually square, we can just take this square here, we can put it right on that line that we made. Okay, and that's how we're going to know that we're going to be square, because cutting a rectangular thing that is sideways is going to be, you're going to lose points on that as well. So you want to make sure things are square. So we're going to set this line up here, okay? And then first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line up at 4 inches. Our cutting test is going to be 4 inches by 6 inches. So first thing we need to do is create that 4x6 piece, okay? Now this is a little bit difficult to read, so we're gonna double check it with our tape measure after we draw this line. So we're gonna stick it up here. We're gonna come up 4 inches because I'm on that line. And once I get to the top of that 4 inches, I can put just a little mark coming in. That way I know that I need to come into my 6 inches, okay? Now I can put that right back on here, okay? And then I can measure up 6 inches, okay? And put a little mark, that way I know that that's where I need to go up, okay? We can also take our tape measure, double check our marks on our measurements. Okay, these are real simple measurements, 6x4, so they're not, you're not dealing with any fractions. You can also use You can take your scale out of here, and you can use the scale one here as well. You don't want to use this scale. You don't want to do this with the scale and then come over here and do this and draw your rectangle, because you're not, yes, you're getting a straight line, but these need to be 90 degrees on your corners. You can't draw a 90 degree with just having this. So you can use it for the straight lines, but not going to be easy to use it to draw your sizes. Put this back in here. Okay. Now, so I have the left side and then the bottom. So I'm going to go back to my combination square, and I started out like this. All I'm going to do is flip this over, that way I can get my second line. Okay, so we're going to set this down, make sure that we're square. Okay, we're going to go up about 4 inches. Okay, take our tape measure, double check. Make sure we mark our line. You can also mark your line just like this. So I have my point on here, okay? You don't want to push this down as hard as you can. You want to keep that point. So if you're still laying this out and you lose your point on here, it's okay to go and sharpen that back up. Okay, so I have 3 sides now. Looks almost like a U. Now, last thing we're going to do for our actual size, just going to take this, and we're going to take our combination square. We're just going to connect these 2 lines together. So we can do it this way. Just draw the line, or if you want to be more accurate, line it up with the already square parts, the other 2 square pieces that you have already cut, okay, or you have already marked. Draw our line, okay. Now, we have our 6x4 rectangle, so that is the size that we're making, all right? Answered one of those survey questions you guys just did. Now, the next thing we're going to do, you don't want to necessarily cut this out yet. You want to cut, before you cut the whole piece out, it's easier to cut out your hole, your circle in the center, with the piece still attached, rather than it falling out and you having to pick it up and try and hold it to cut your radius and your hole. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to set up for cutting our hole. So if we want this hole to be right in the center of this rectangle, I know that this is 6x3, okay? So we're going to take our 6, cut it in half, so that's 3 inches, and then we're going to take our 4, cut it in half, and that's going to be 2 inches, okay? We can use this scale just to do that. We're going to set this up. We're going to come in at 3 inches, put a mark, okay? Then we're going to come up 2 inches, put a mark. Now we can take our combination square, because I know that I already have a straight line here, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. If we can get this back in here. So I'm just going to set this to 2 1/4. Okay. Get right onto our line, and we're going to go up halfway. Okay. Now I cannot do that on the 3-inch side because we have a cut edge here. So that's not going to be possible. Now I can do a couple of different things. Since I can't use this like I just did here on the 2-inch side, I can take a measurement. Okay, so I can come up here to the top and I can put a measurement at 3 inches. and then draw a line with my straight edge. Okay. Take our straight edge. Now you don't have to draw the lines all the way down. It only needs to be directly in the center. Now, right here is where our two lines cross. So that's how we know we're finding the center of that 4x6 piece, okay? Now I told you guys on Friday, after you find those crosshairs where you need to be, this is where our punch and hammer are going to come to play. So you don't want to lose those lines. So we're going to take this, we're going to put it directly in the center of those crosshairs. And we're going to take our hammer and we're going to punch a spot. That way we know it's going to stay there, okay? Now we have a spot. Now before we do anything else, as far as with that hole, we're going to lay out for our 2-inch radius, okay? So we already have our 2-inch line, okay? We're going to go ahead and take our measurements, okay? We're going to come down 2 inches, we're going to go in 2 inches. That's going to be a 4-inch circle, but a 2-inch radius, okay? So let's take our measurements. It's just easier to use this because those are all faded, okay? So we're going to come in 2 inches. Put our mark, okay? Now, since we already have the line there, we don't have to draw any additional lines, okay? Now we're going to take our soapstone, or our punch, and we're going to punch our line here. Okay, we have 2 spots now, okay? Now, we're gonna go back to our hole, all right? We're gonna take our soapstone. We want to make a 1.5-inch hole that goes around the entire outside of that. So we're gonna take our compass, and in order to make an 1.5-inch hole, we're going from the center. So 1.5-inch hole, we wanna have our set compass here at 3/4 of an inch. Because remember, we're going from the center of that. So we're just gonna take our scale here. We're gonna set this up, and we're gonna set it to 3/4 of an inch, okay? Once you set it to 3/4, we'll just stick that down, okay? Now there is no soapstone on the end of this. It's just like a scribe, a little score here. So an easy way to do this is to take your soapstone, and around that circle, just put a nice soapstone mark. Makes it easier to be able to see your scribe when you go around. Okay, once you make that mark, we're going to take our scribe, our compass, and we're going to make a circle. Okay, try and be as accurate as you can with this. And I'll show you guys this with the camera once it's all done and laid out. Okay. You want to make it to where you can see it once you guys start cutting, okay? And try not to wipe things off because it's only going to be there for so long, okay? So we have our 1.5-inch hole, 3/4 split in half from each side is going to be our 1.5 inches. Now we want to do the same thing with our radius. This top left corner, we're going to hit this with our soapstone. That way we can see when we draw our radius. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to set this to 2 inches. All right, we're going to stick it in that center hole that we have already made. Okay. Once we set it in that hole, we're going to start right at the center where our line is, and we're going to score a line. So this is where we're making our radius. Okay, now throughout this process, you might have to, take your straight edge and just rescore a line here, that way you can see. Soapstone rubs off rather easily. So go back through, score your line. That way you can see where you're at. All right. So we have our 6x4 rectangle with our hole in the center, with our 2-inch radius on the top left corner. Okay. One of the things that you're graded on is accuracy of this hole placement, the size, and also where it's located. If you put the radius on the top right-hand side, yes, it's a radius there, but it's in the completely opposite side that it needs to be. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up for a 45-degree bevel. Okay. Easy way to do this. We're going to set this back up in here. So we're at the point to where we have our circle now. We have our radius. Now we need to do our one last thing is lay out for our bevel. Okay. So while I was connecting, I went and grabbed my speed square because this is real nice to have. So on the edge of the material, so the edge that you're looking this way, I'm going to take my speed square. Okay, this is the easiest way to get your line for your 45-degree bevel. Okay, I'm setting my speed square up right on the side of this material. Okay, making sure that the edge, is lined up with the end of my 6-inch line. Okay, so once I do that, drawing a 45-degree angle on the side, and then I'm just transferring the line from that 45 up. It equals to about a quarter of an inch in from that 6-inch place. Okay, so now, so I know that this is going to be my cut line. Okay, I am going to not make a full line, but yet a lot of small lines. That way I know which line I need to cut. Okay, and our layout would be complete. So the next step is going to be to take this, set it on the cutting table, and then cut it out first. Okay. So when you cut this, and tomorrow's lesson will be in regards to that. When you cut this, you want to cut the straight line first, and then you want to cut the bevel, and then the other line, and then the radius. Okay. But that's after you cut your hole in the center. Okay. If you don't cut your hole in the center first, you can still do it once it's cut out, but it's just going to be more difficult. Okay, so let's show you how we are sitting here. Okay. All right, so here is our 45-degree bevel. Okay, you guys see the bevel? And then here's our transfer line. Here's our hole directly in the center. Then our radius. And then this is our whole piece. Now, like I said, a little bit difficult to see those lines, but once you start cutting, you'll be able to see them a little bit easier. Okay?